Hey, what's going
Morning,
on?
everybody. Happy
Good
Friday.
morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Good
Easter
Friday,
weekend.
actually.
Happy Good
Good Friday.
Friday.
Good Friday, absolutely.
Mm.
It's a great Friday to be in.
Let me hydrate
So,
before.
how's your weeks, guys? How's your weeks? Talk to
Oh
us.
my
What's going on?
God.
How's your weeks?
So
Busy.
far, it's been getting crazy.
I hope
That's
everybody
good.
is okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good morning.
Good
So
morning. Good
today
morning.
is Real Estate Unwrapped. We're going to have a party. We're gonna have a conversation about the value of a good buyer's agent. No slide, no nothing. Really,
Yeah.
if you anybody wants to jump in, if you want to be on in the studio with us, just leave us some comments. We'll be glad to put you in. We are going to discuss basically what it means to be a good buyer's agent. What do we offer to the public? What do we do? And it's up to interpretation to every one of us. I am not a buyer's agent. So but I see a lot of buyer's agents.
Well, you
Yeah.
know
Right.
what it
And
is? It's a start, right? It's like
yeah.
that's kind of where we all start, right? If you're not out dealing with renters or tenants, you know what I mean. Usually, the first step is you're dealing with a buyer.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes
Unless you're DG. When DG started
it's
her real estate career, the first appointment she had was a listing
No.
appointment that she locked in for $2 million. So she
So
killed it. She killed
no,
it.
not at all. I did probably something that is not right.
okay.
Whoa, where is this going?
Right. Where are we going with this one? Yeah.
I
Okay.
thought I would tip doormans, porters, supers. I spent a lot of money my first month, and I was like, me tip, just get like 50, 20, this and that. I got some sellers referrals, but I don't think it's the right way. I didn't really know.
Actually, no. That is well. Whether it's not
You're
really
not supposed
tipping.
to,
You're not
I
supposed to
don't
give them
know.
money, but the
Right.
point is that if you indulge them with maybe a box of Joe's, coffee, something in the sense that showing them some kind of gratitude, it
Oh no,
does
it's
happen,
different. Yeah. But
right?
I had
That's a great way.
I had no history, nothing. I just like, let me go get some listings.
Happy Friday, Alicia.
Absolutely.
Happy
Happy Friday.
Friday. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
All right. Hi, Alicio. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So
absolutely.
let's talk about what
You know,
does
you know what we should do? We should kick it off. Excuse me.
yeah.
We should kick it off with how this topic actually came about,
Go ahead.
Oh, go
right?
ahead. Refresh my
So
memory because I already forgot about it.
yeah, because I saw you looking off to the side, and I figured you started
I'm
thinking
like,
about it.
okay, yeah. All right.
So
How did we? Yeah.
so we came across this only because there was somebody in our team that was working with the clients of theirs, helped them get to the closing table, sell the property, but now they have to purchase. So they were asking some pretty specific questions, right? And as someone who's, I wouldn't say fairly new, but someone who's kind of starting their real estate ventures and business, these questions could kind of stump you, right? Like you
Okay.
don't know what to respond, right? Like if you're a new agent and they ask you, well, I want to see how your success ratio is in Forest Hills. I want to see how you've dealt with co-ops, right? For example, can you please show us your skills or show us some of your history in these areas, what
Mm-hmm.
you know? Now, clearly, if you're somebody new, you might not know off the top of your head, but if you're part of a team the way we are, like we have a whole team put together, you know what I mean? We've spoke about this on how to utilize your team, how to leverage your team to help you
Right.
get these appointments. So that's kind of how this whole topic started.
Right.
All right.
Okay. So
But
let's just
I
say you
have
weren't in
some.
the team. How would you answer that?
That's a great question. That's why I brought this subject to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you a jewel
Oh,
because for the world out there to know, you have something called market share in MLS. And if you're gonna go into our local market of co-ops, we happen to be numero uno.
yeah.
So that is a big It's already something like a big accomplishment as an organization,
For sure.
and you should be able to leverage this as a new agent.
You should
know.
leverage it.
Knowing that you have outside of your team, bigger than your team, your organizations that is already like killing it in the co-op condo market, if this is what you have, or if it's not, like you belong to another office, check out if the market shares, whether it's listing taken, listing sold, overall listing taken and sold over a period of time, number of unit, or in dollar amount. See where you position yourself and try to leverage your whole organization or team. That's one.
I get all that, but I mean, I guess the question starts is, you have a seller buyer now, right? That's actually interviewing you to represent them as a buyer, and they want to know whether or not you actually are capable of handling a co-op situation.
That's a tough one.
You're a new agent. You don't know how to answer that. So the best way to answer that, I mean, Ed, you said it best, is that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And then to follow up on that is, I may not have the ratios that you're looking for, but my entire team does. Therefore, I can actually help you, get you to the type of homes that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, let's really deep dive the type of home that you're looking for, and then go into their motivations.
Mm-hmm.
When I was pretty much working not with a team, I would get a question like that or two, in the sense of, how much do you know about the co-op process?
Yeah.
I can simply just, in those moments, obviously being new, it's like, I know the co-op process is not a short process like you sell a home. Okay. However, I do have a team behind me that can help us entire process out, so that we're able to, go through this process pretty quickly.
Yeah.
At that time, in our office, we had the transaction coordinator with us, which was helping us out. But my point was that I was trying to sort of band-aid that answer or that question. With something else.
So which brings me to basically the best way to bring out your value is to, number one, and it's going to go back to personality profile, understand and listen to the person that you're interacting with. Listen carefully to what is the most important to them. Like, not everybody is going to be, I believe, not everybody is going to want to know if you're an expert at co-op condo and can put these packages together beautifully. Some people are more into the experience they're going to have. They want to make sure you're attentive. They want to make sure you're going to answer a phone call. They're going to make sure that the communication is there. Some people are going to want accuracy on you delivering what they ask for, right?
Yeah.
And some people are going to need flexibility. It all depends. So to me, what constitutes the greatest value of a buyer's agent is, number one, being in tune with the buyer and really understanding who they are, what they're looking for, what is important to them. And I think it's also good to ask what is important to them before you even take them out.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, two things, one to piggyback on that, and also one more thing just came into mind, which is you generally don't want to, even as a seller's agent or a buyer's agent, you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Right? And then when it comes to a buyer seller, whatever way you want to look at it, is even for buyers, like, how fast do you need to move? How aggressive do you need me to be? In other words, to find this next home for you. So let's talk about what's important to you about finding this home. And then you get into those questions right away.
Yeah.
Right.
So we actually, real quick, Gigi, we actually, as we were having this
good morning, Maria.
Yeah. Good morning, Maria. Thanks for tuning in. So literally, as we were having this conversation earlier this week, something else popped up. And I know Gigi said number one is to understand your clients, but I think ultimately number one is to understand the role you play. All right? Because the role that you play as a real estate agent, you're either going to be dealing with that person, that buyer, as a customer relationship or a client relationship. So we actually went back and forth on this because, unfortunately, we don't know exactly to a T what the rules are when it comes to dealing or being a buyer's agent. All right, a certified buyer's agent, and you're exclusively representing this client to purchase their next home. Right. And there's some traits, and Gigi, Gigi has her beliefs and we have ours, but There's some.
Well, I'm going to give you my simple belief. It's a very simple one. I'm not a buyer. I'm not a buyer representative, specialist or certified, but I can tell you that my philosophy for everybody out there, especially new one, is you need to be able to want to go the extra mile. You want to get established, especially if you're a new agent. Forget about being representing the buyer exclusively or not. You need to go the extra mile. You need to do what it takes. You need to give 100% because you need to actually stack up some business, some experience. So I'm not really worried about what is my representation, what should I do, what shouldn't I do. My best advice to anybody new is just go 200%, just do it. It doesn't really matter. Don't even start counting the co-broke compensation, because this is what people do. Let me look on MLS. Oh my God, at one point, I am not going to work with it. Why? Forget about it. Even if you're getting 1% this one time, just stack up deals, stack up the experience. Just like serve your clients, your customers the best you can. And if their clients is even better, just as much as you can. And if you can get better commission, yes, good for you. And if you can't, okay. And next. That's how I feel.
And it's a good feeling to have. Listen, you have the managerial mindset.
When you knew
You have the managerial mindset. I also have that mindset, and we all do in a sense when it comes to training somebody, right? So the mindset is if you're in this business, if you're here right now, you literally pass your test. Do not become that secret agent and start compiling and start filling up all of your database. Just try to get as much buyers as possible, and don't worry about the commission. Because as you said, and I agree to a certain point that, if it's 1%, 1% is better than no percent.
Exactly. So my philosophy is fill up your database, fill up your calendar with appointments.
Right. But now let's just say to the point that you've already are in this 2-3 years in.
Yeah.
What is that value of a good buyer's agent, right? What is that point of, now that you become.
Oh, now you sharpened your knife. It's a different story. Right. Now you understand.
This is what Ed and I were talking about in that sense. This is where you actually start segregating, that sort of different type of level of service. This is where you start doing the different types of things so that you're able to now choose out, the motivations of who are your motivated buyers and who are not going to be your motivated buyers.
Sure. Oh, right, definitely. Like, you don't want to waste time. Same thing on my end when I work with sellers. Some is like, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to work together, and it's okay. Yeah. But again, as a new agent, my advice is just take about anything you can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't take. I'm not saying don't take.
Right.
I'm saying take. Book your appointments. Go out there. At the end of the day, whether you're showing them, you have to realize that this is helping you. Right. You're getting familiar with what is on the market, the different products that are available, what the price ranges are. You're even interacting with some of these realtors, making bonds, whatever the case might be. So I'm not saying no. Definitely go out there, book your appointments. What I am saying, however, is this, and I'm going to keep it as simple as Gigi kept it, right? You have to understand that as you come into this, you're either going to have a customer relationship or a client relationship. What does that mean? I keep it very simple. So if you have a customer relationship, right? I have a buyer called me on the phone. Hey, I want to see this property. Guess what? That's Israel's listing. I'm going to go show Israel's listing to my customer who's a buyer. The simplest way I can put this is that customer is someone who I'm working with, not for. Yeah. So guess what? As I show up to the listing appointment with Israel, because this is a customer, I'm working with Israel to lock this in. This is supposed to go, and in all honesty, this is supposed to favor the sellers at this point because we have a customer relationship. Now, if you have a client relationship with this buyer, then 100% you're going to defend that person to the T. There's just little things that we tend to do that unfortunately is the reason why there's buyer's agents who are like, oh, tell me what the difference is between the two, because I tend to get the same service across the board. and it
Right.
shouldn't be that way. You know what I
Right.
mean? At the end of the day, I get it. We want to help everybody. I want to help everybody I work with as well. But I have to understand that this is business. There's nothing personal. This is strictly business. I'm going to help you get what you need. But in all actuality, if it's a customer, I'm working with the listing agent to make this deal happen. If it's a client, I'm working with the client for the client. So I'm working to get them the best deal possible.
Right.
So,
So
if I-
in this age of this real estate market being crazy, I don't know how long it's going to last as the real estate, the interest rates are climbing up. A lot of buyers believe that it's probably the smartest thing to do is to go straight to the seller's agent.
A lot of them, yeah.
I don't necessarily agree because I get some buyers coming directly to us and they think that they could try to bribe us and understand
Yeah,
like, give me a deal, it's fine. We'll
Yeah.
work something out. You can cut your commission. And I'm like, dude, first of all, no. Second of all, you're knocking at the wrong door because I am representing the seller. And I'm not going to enter into a dual agency just because you're going to try to bribe me. So
Yeah.
I am just representing the seller. And ultimately, yes, we're going to do what is best for the seller. Some deals, sometimes it works. You're able to broker a deal with a direct buyer, but I am representing the seller.
Yeah.
I do appreciate a good buyer's agent that's going to come prepared. Like they're going to come and I'm going to tell you what I love and what I appreciate. I'm there at a showing, let's say. I'm going to be at the showing because it's a house and we want to make sure the seller is comfortable. She has a lot of things. I do like when the agent is prepared. And I do encourage them to, it's their show, they have their buyers. I want them to not lose that position of power and go through the house and do what they need to do. I love when they're prepared. I'm just going to be there to answer additional questions that may not have been on the MLS sheet. Hopefully, I have filled up as much as I could, and I do love when they worked a little bit on the history of the neighborhood and stuff, and they're able to give like some little anecdotes to the bar. I love that. I absolutely appreciate that. And then when it comes to the time of offers, they're also ready. They have all the paperwork in place, and the offer sheet is filled up properly and you understand everything. Even if you're not agreeing with the numbers, it's all laid out perfectly. And they're going to also give you like a back story on the buyers, and you're going to be able to present that offer better, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to be the best offer, but sometimes because it's just put together so perfectly, the sellers are going to see the paperwork that came with that offer and they're just going to take it. So yeah, I think working with a buyer agent, whatever your presentation is extremely important, right?
100%.
So yes, and from what you just pointed out, I mean, honestly, we're all listing agents at a certain point too. More you than I guess me and Ed in this case, but that to me, what you just said was pretty much a good utopia way, or your utopia of what a buyer agent should be, right? That'd be your value of what a buyer agent's should be to that buyer's agent, right? So where I'm going with this is that I look at it that way too, because honestly, anytime I put in offers for my buyers, I always put all the information that they need. I put in all the stuff that it makes it easier for the listing agent to see, hey, listen, you're working with a professional, especially when it comes to co-ops. In our co-op world, you need everybody's information, even up to their grandmother's information, right? So it's like I give them as much information as possible to give them, that necessary sort of good mindset or peaceful mindset of you're working with a professional. You know what you're going to get out of this. Let's work together to get the right price.
And you are able to actually get all that information. That is very, very personal, from a buyer.
Right.
And they understand because of the way you presented yourself that they have to give up all that information in order to go forward.
So to stay in the soapbox for a few more seconds in this, right? In the sense that, look at it this way. As a buyer's agent, it's all built on the first conversation that person has, right? This is where the value starts for us. It starts with the relationship. You're not going to have a sort of any kind of business relationship with somebody you just don't know. So it all starts with the conversation. Once you have that conversation with that person, then that buyer agent should be able to at least give you an expectation of how it's going to be throughout the process, whether you're buying a house, co-op, or condo, right? So if they're able to, let's just say they're able to explain to you all three of them, co-ops, condos, and houses, then when they go to that house, they're at least letting you know. If you don't know the neighborhood, see, this is a lot of times that happens to me too, where in the sense that if I don't know the neighborhood, I'll try to study the neighborhood a little bit more as a buyer's agent, right? Like if I don't know, look, there's a lot of parts of Long Island that I don't know,
Right.
but I try to study it a little more so that when I go to that house and that person doesn't know, hey, did you know that there's a certain restaurant over here? Did you know this? I try to give them that little information
Right.
so they're a little bit more comfortable about what the area is all about.
Especially with the school districts, very super
Exactly.
important. Yeah.
So then things like that. And then moving on to the point of the house, try to give them that customer showing experience where it's just like, look, ladies and gentlemen, we all know what a bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathroom looks like. We all know what that looks like, which I hope we all know what that looks like, right? Like we're not going to the bathroom in the kitchen kind of thing, right?
So, here, this is the kitchen, and that's a fridge.
Right? So
Yeah.
the point that I'm trying to make is that you give them that sort of living experience, not just a showing experience. So if you give, so what I do is I give them a living experience so that they can feel whether or not they have a great emotion within that house. Once they have that, then I move into the point of asking them how they felt about the house afterwards, and then try to get an offer. So these are just a summary of things I do to, as far as a buyer's agent, to give the buyer a great customer experience, whether client or customer in that case, customer experience, so that they're able to feel emotionally right to buy that home. So these are things that I go through.
So tip number 1, read the MLS description. Read the broker remarks.
Yes.
If you're gonna go into showing time, to book an appointment, read the showing instructions that you receive. I mean, does it is it silly to say that? But I'm encountering so many buyers that are just like, to tell you frankly, I'm seeing agents that unfortunately have had no training at all and wasting those poor buyers' time, wasting it because those people are not even qualified to get into the house, or it's not even the neighborhood they were looking for, or the type of house they were looking for, or even apartment. You know how many this happens every single day. It's exasperating. If I'm going to put myself in the shoes of the consumer, you know how bad we look as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so this exercise is to just raise the level, a little bit of, let's be a little bit more conscious of the service we deliver here.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially when it comes to co-ops, those are the most difficult ones to ask any kind of questions, especially financial. Yeah. We're all in this point of you're speaking to a stranger on the phone wanting to see a unit, and this stranger's asking you for financial information.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sort of, be coy. You got to woo the person a little bit. Got to, speak to them in the sense of, listen, the only way we can get in here is that I know your financials. If I don't know it, then we can't get in here at all. Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line to that, honestly, I don't even say it that way anymore. But the point is, it's that when I'm on the phone with the person, it's honestly like, have you ever bought a co-op in your, like in your life or anything else? No? Okay, great. Well, let me just put it this way. There are 3 things I need to know. If you're willing to share, great. If you're not, then it's going to be a very difficult time for us to find a unit for you. Right. So let me tell you what the 3 things are. And then I just get into it real quick, and then they just start giving me the information.
Right.
So
I had to turn down an agent. I had an offer on a co-op right here in the neighborhood. Well, the agent thought that just because the buyer was a junior attorney, that she was automatically qualified to purchase the apartment that we were showing. And looking at her paperwork, I'm like, who qualified this person? I mean, this offer, it's like she's going to have to put a lot more down payment if she wants to qualify,
Right.
And in your debt to income ratio, you did not calculate that she still has a student loan. Okay, she may not have the payments, but those payments are going to be resuming. Like they hold off some of the payments for a while. And it just changes, the qualification of the person. And then they unfortunately telling me, oh yeah, that's what the mortgage broker just came up with. And I'm like, here we go.
See,
it's like,
Ed, I don't know how you feel about this part, because I mean, honestly, when it comes to co-ops, we say that buyers need to have as much information, about the buyer themselves. But I've run into a lot of moments where the seller or the listing agent doesn't have that much information either.
Yes.
Okay. So then when it comes to like applications, so again, let's just stay with co-ops for 2 more minutes, in the sense that there's 2 ways of qualifications. You have either the income requirement or the DTI, right? And there's other forms as well, but those 2 are the most major ones.
Yeah.
So to give a quick example, I have a great buyer. We moved forward. She had a DTI of 20%, so on and so forth. We're good to go. I specifically asked the listing agent, hey, listen, is it DTI or is it financials? DTI. Great. Can I get the application? Never got the application until the point of contract. Cool. Got the application. Guess what it was? It was financials. What happened after that? My buyer was actually off. Yeah. My buyer was actually off by $8,000 on the applications. Pretty much their Einstein qualifications, because it's always this weird way of qualifying on financials. Yeah. So that in itself already like pissed me off, because again, if you were a listing agent, you should have at least all that information.
Some listing agents feel like it's a hindrance to actually put those requirements. Yeah, sometimes they may seem harsh. I was dealing with an Ed, you know what co-op we're talking about, like in the neighborhood. You went actually on the listing appointment in that same co-op, where they have an income requirement that is pretty high for the type of product that is available, but if you're going to look at what's available, the comments that are available on MLS from the various brokers working this particular complex, nobody is mentioning the income calculation.
Yeah, and it's important.
It's, like in that part of town, when it's close to reaching $100,000 for a 2-bedroom, you're going to have a large chunk of population that's not going to qualify. And that's the way it is. And we should be able to just give the calculations from the complex and say, here, this is what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you cannot misrepresent the product you're selling just to attract just about anybody. And then you get like angry, disappointed people.
Right.
So
Ed, I mean, what other good values do you give as a buyer's agent?
I mean, there's so much to go through. It's funny because when I first started doing real estate, I was actually getting those buyer's agency exclusivity signed without even knowing what it was. I don't know what it was. Just, hey, look, you want me to represent you? Fantastic. This is what I can give you. This is going to make sure that I do my job. Sign here, date, fantastic. As I went through the course, that's when I started to learn, okay, there's more to this. You know what I mean? There's more to it. There's more, and for me, it's hard to really put like a finger on what the exact values are going to be, because not everybody shares the same values. Not everybody wants the same values. Right. You know what I mean? So the only thing I can always ever tell someone is you have to pay attention. And I always say this, right? Communication is key. Listen, all this other stuff. So you have to pay attention to the person that you're talking to, right? Like Gigi said something very, very interesting. From the listing side, from her point of view, she mentioned something very important, right? And what was that? If I'm dealing with a buyer's agent, it makes me feel good that that person knows a little bit about the product, right? So what does that mean? Okay, so if I'm going into this property, I can't just be the one that's going to unlock the lockbox to take the key out and open the door and say, hey, take a look around and let me know if you have any questions. That just means you have no idea what's going on about the property. So hopefully they don't ask any questions. And if they do, it's like, okay, hopefully I refer back to the MLS listing. Maybe you have it as a snapshot on your phone. I do that. I take a snapshot of the MLS listing and I try my best to memorize as much information as I possibly can before I meet with the buyer. and I go through that conversation.
The thing is, it's the value of a buyer's agent is to take that buyer from the start of their search into the whole process and
Through
to
the
the
whole process,
finish
yeah.
line, having a great experience.
Mhm.
I can also tell you, we just closed on an apartment where the buyer, as we're doing the application to the board, had totally said, I don't even want to talk to my agent at this point. I don't even
Wow.
want to have to deal with that person.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And understandably, the agent had given totally wrong information based on I don't even know what to the buyer, made him think that things were completely different than what actually was on in the application. I mean, nothing was concealed to him. They had the application even before they, when they wanted to make an offer, just whatever. You want to see what the application looked like, it's yes, knock yourself out. But then some interpretation was made that just was so wrong and made that buyer angry. And you want to go through the process, you're in contract, you want to take it to the finish line, but felt really bad for that person that there was some communication that was cut because the agent wasn't in tune, because the agent had different priority than that person. You understand?
Yeah.
And disappeared, came back, went on some trips to the Middle East, and extremely, I see how he was frustrated and angry. So I had to buffer it up and say, here, I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. We're there now, we're in contract. Let's make sure you get approved by the board.
Yeah.
And that's that. But it's unfortunate. It's more than once. It's really, really more than once. And I wish we bring more. I don't know what kind of education is needed in our industry to just make sure that we understand our role, like
Well,
working
if
with
I
a
can make a
consumer.
recommendation. If you haven't done it yet and you're watching this right now and you're a real estate agent and you're working with buyers, but you haven't gone through to the buyer's agency certification courses, I would highly recommend it.
Right.
Okay. Because that class right there, it's a 3-day class. That's going to put things into perspective for you.
Oh, I took that.
Right? Yeah.
I am certified too, I guess.
There you go. I think somebody need to refresh your certification.
No. I think I took that. I think I took that. I totally. I think.
But
I
look,
took that.
if you're got your license, you went through the textbook is one thing. You went out into the field, you got your nose, you got your levels of rejection. The door's been slammed on your face. You got your experience, right? Now go back to that course. Take that course because that's gonna refresh everything you went through. On top of that, it's just going to put things into perspective as far as, like I mentioned before, when you're dealing with a buyer as a client or a buyer as a customer, then you're going to know how to react. It's funny because we actually were going over this during the week, and Gigi and I were kind of going back and forth because, as Gigi mentioned before, you're working with somebody, you should just, go a little further, give an extra mile, take a little longer, do what you got to do to meet these clients' needs, right? But that's my thing. Like if they're a client, 100%. If they're a customer, however, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that for them. And the only reason why is, again, you have to refer back to, and this is just the way I'm looking at it. You refer back to what these relationships are. If you're a customer relationship, you treat them like a customer. If they're a client, you treat them like a client.
At this juncture in your career, yeah, you can make a choice. This is your priorities. But again, we're dealing with a lot of people that are newer in this industry. Yeah.
I'm not saying choose one or the other. I'm just saying do what you got to do. Make a mess. Learn. Get your experience. Go take the course so you have an idea of what the difference is between the two. And again, I can still perform and provide value without giving the customer what I would give the white glove service to a client. You understand what I'm saying? Like I can still provide value regardless of the matter. But again, if I have a customer, I'm not gonna, and this was what we actually went over. If I have a customer and the customer looks at these properties and they go, hey, whatever, Ed, this is great, whatever, I like this apart. How much do you think I should offer? right? How many of you guys out there have actually received that question? You showed a couple of properties to the buyer. The buyer's like, yeah, you know what? I don't know. I'm not sure. How much do you think I should offer? And some of us will say, well, you know what? The market's calling for this, and this is what so-and-so sold for last month. And you know, I think this is the right price. Fantastic to do that if they're your client. But if they're your customer, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go ahead and say, well, so-and-so sold for this, so-and-so sold for that. Again, I'm working with Israel and I'm trying to lock in the deal. So what I'm going to say is, hey, look, this is what the market's calling for, right? It's a seller's market out there. I know it's kind of vague. It depends on what kind of property it is, but I'm defending the fact of this is the relationship that we have.
Right.
Any information that the buyer discloses to me, I'm going to go and say, yo, Israel, check it. The buyer actually has X amount of money in the bank. This is what they do for work. This is what they're trying to do, right? Because that's a customer relationship. I'm trying to let Israel know this is the type of buyer that I'm working with. Let's try to make the deal happen.
Yeah, I differ in the sense that because I go through the comps with the sellers. I would assume that agents, regardless of the agency relationship, should at least have an inkling, an idea of what was sold in. If you're going to be showing an area, you should know what was sold in this area a little bit. I'm not saying be completely an expert in it, but at least say here within the last half mile over the last 6 months, let's at least get an idea.
So I agree and I don't agree. And here's where it is. Real quick.
Look at the market trend. Again, we have all those tools on MLS. That's what it takes 2 minutes.
100%. And I agree with you. And this is where the drama started. All right. So here it is. I agree with you, Gigi. 100%. I think as a buyer's agent, you should maximize the amount of information as far as the area goes, the house, whatever the case might be. But I'm not taking that information and giving it to a customer. I'm taking that information so I know what's up. I'm taking that information so I'm not going to come to Israel and say, hey, Israel, my buyers want to present a lowball offer. I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean? So therefore, I'm going to have it so that I know what's up. So if they say, hey, what do you think we should recommend? Honestly, I think we should shoot for what they're asking for, if not more. A lot of people nowadays are getting outbid and people are overbidding for these properties. So if you really like the place, that's what I recommend. I'm not going to say,
right.
Hey,
and this is where it must be so frustrating working with buyers that they're going to make you present an offer that is lowball. They know it. You know it. You know they don't stand a chance. And you still have to present that offer.
Well, I mean,
I'm like, whoa.
We always have to present it, but
I know. But what a freaking waste of time. It's like, you know, like, I still see it and I'm like.
Here's the thing though. If you look up that information for yourself, for self-knowledge, right? So I know what sold in the last 6 months. I know similar properties that sold. I kind of have an idea of what the price ranges are, right? And if the buyer tries to come in with a lower offer, at that, I'm not going to say, well, you know what? That's fine if that's what you want to do. I'm still going to go, is that your best offer? Like, do you honestly believe that's the best offer? Like, this is what they're asking for. We're in a seller's market. Properties are selling for over what they're asking for at this point.
Do you tell them you're out of your effing mind?
I don't tell them. What I try to do is make it more reasonable. Like, I try to make them understand that. Like, hold on a second. Do you really think that's a good thing to do? Like, don't you feel like we might actually be coming off a bit rude or disrespectful with this offer? You know what I mean? Like, I'd actually have them reevaluate it. I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh, you know what? So-and-so sold for X amount of dollars over here. Like, I don't want to just give them that information. If we can have that conversation from the beginning and everything moves smoothly, great. If they start to kind of come back and say, no, I don't want to give that kind of offer, that's a different story. You know, if you did your research, like, okay, you want to give a lower offer, I need you to understand that that's not what the market is calling for. You get what I'm saying? That's a different story. If somebody's trying to lowball and waste time, completely different story, right? Like, for example, the house in Briarwood. If people keep calling me for the house in Briarwood, I listed it for $699. The price that it calls for in the area is between $730 and $750.
Well, so you have a marketing strategy. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the way I
bring in more. Yeah. I mean, we all do that. Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. Now I still get calls for people that are looking for a house in that price range. So I go through the questions with them. You want detached, attached, separated driveway, no driveway, shared driveway. I go through these conversations, and based off of their responses, I will say off the bat, honestly, if you're looking in this area, that price isn't going to cut it. Like if you want something for 600,000, you're not getting a fully detached house.
No, you're getting a 2-bedroom attached.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna get, right? So that's where like I said before, yes, research the neighborhood, look what's around, look what's available for your knowledge. You're not gonna give that to everybody because remember, you paid for this. You went to school and you paid for this. You learn how to now go out there and be a real estate agent, real estate advisor. You can search properties, you can compare properties, you can do market analysis. You went to school for this, you paid for this, so you should not be giving this stuff away for free. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
You know, but overall, that was basically what we were going back and forth at. And although I think we agree with each other, G's, there's just little parts of it that I'm just like,
Yeah. No, because I just want to make sure also our listeners don't feel like, oh, let me cut corners and just be a douche with that buyer, and like I have no sales under my belt, and I'm gonna be choosy and just not give the right service.
Well,
I just want to make sure we're not getting into that direction. Right.
It all goes back to not only your experience, but then how much volume you're doing. Right. And I'm not saying that you're selling, $1 million house every year or every month, so on and so forth. I'm talking about in the sense that you actually per month at least have 3 to 4 contracts, already locked in per month. Right. That you're at the next, every month or so that you're working on, you're able to now selectively choose who you're going to work with. Okay. But the thing is that, part of what, and again, I've been to the CBR class. I've been through that as well. I agree in the sense that as a new agent, build your database, build your information, build everything you can. All right. And even build your system of how you're going to do showings, build your system on how you're going to present offers, be marketable, be informative when it comes to actually talking to buyers and sellers, in that sense, because what it comes down to it is that at the end of the day, 2 things are happening, right? The buyers are buying their home and they're actually giving you a review. You want to be able to be so good that they're actually referring you to their friends and family at the end of the day.
I think you need to have a method and an operating procedure.
You absolutely have to have it. Everybody has to have it.
Yes.
You need to have a system.
A lot of agents don't have any. So I think you need to have your nothing. I'm trying to find the word in English. You need to have this modus operandi. This is how I do things. This Mr. Buyer. This is what's going to happen during the process. You have to have a full understanding of what I'm going to give you. We're going to go see properties. We're going to evaluate.
So it goes back to what I just said, which is a system. You want to create a system, an expectation for that buyer.
Yeah.
Right. You want to go through the entire thing. Now, the thing where I differ maybe from what Ed does and what I do in that sense, if they ask me, exactly, how much should I offer for this home? Again, how much do you care about it? How much do you love it? This is the kind of market that we're working in. We're working on a sales market. Are you able to put in full price? No, then tell me what works for you. If they give me a lowball offer, explain to me why do you think that price works for you?
Right.
Okay. Let me get that mindset in there and find out what's going on. Because I work on mindset a lot. So in the sense of, let me hear what you're thinking. Maybe we need to think together in the sense of trying to get you the right price that's going to get to the seller, to the closing, to the negotiating table. All right. Because I don't think that's going to get to this is going to get them to the negotiating table.
So
all right.
A question came into my mind. At what point do you tell a buyer that has been repeatedly bringing super lowball offer? At what point do you tell them they're wasting their time, not only your time, but basically their time?
So when it comes to the point of 2 things, right? For me, I don't know about you, but 2 things. I actually have a threshold of the amount of showings I do, right? So if I get to the point, let's just say 10 showings, in the sense of I'm showing you 10 houses, and you're giving me,
and they check all your boxes,
right? But you're giving me bogus reasons as to why this is not working out. or you're giving me a lot of lowball offers on a lot of things that we're going with, then I usually use one comment or one thing to say to them. It's like, look, we need to really figure this out. We need to sit down and rehash exactly what you're looking for. We need to recalculate, remeasure everything that's going on because it's not working out.
Mhm.
Because one thing's for sure, at the end of our conversation, two things are going to happen. Either you need to change your expectations or increase your values.
Or bye-bye. Fly
Right?
to the wind.
Either change your expectations,
Yeah.
right? Lower your expectations a little bit,
Yeah.
or a lot more, or increase your values. So
Okay.
one of those two things. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm sorry, I can't work with you. I'll refer you to someone who can help you out.
That
Yeah.
person's
What
not going
about
to
you,
be
Ed?
able to because the numbers aren't in their favor, man. It's look.
It's a good practice for someone else. So you never know.
I've been through it. Like, I'm not even gonna lie,
Right.
I've been through it. I was working with a buyer that we were already looking at his peak. We were already hitting his max in his budget. And this happened literally right before inflation skyrocketed. So
Right.
now I know for a fact that he's not qualified for the same amount. And for what he's looking for, it's not going to happen. So,
Right.
like Gigi said, I mean, it was kind of like a bye-bye factor. But at the same time,
I believe right now you must have really sometimes some very hard conversation with buyers. You remember, as even 6 months ago, you could come up with a pre-approval that was a couple of months old and it was still valid.
yeah, not anymore.
It does not apply right now.
Hell no.
A month old pre-approval is null and void.
Crazy.
So I feel for the buyer's agent, it's like having those hard conversations. It's like, let's go back, let's sit down with this broker and make sure. Yeah,
it's only hard when you don't know what to say.
right.
If you don't know what to say, 100% difficult, right? But what can you do to help you pass the word, or I guess ease the pain when you tell them that, hey, it doesn't work, right? You show them these properties. Like, I've sat down with buyers and say, let's go through what you're looking for, right? Like, you're looking for X, you're looking for Y, you're looking for Z. In these areas, okay, let's see what that looks like in these areas. Look how much they're asking for, right? Oh, that's too expensive. Okay, well, this is what you want. This is the areas that you're looking for. So this is what these properties are calling for. Like Israel said, what are some of the things you can live without? What are some of the things that you actually need, and what are some of the things that you can live without?
Right. It's always back to the basic, that first qualifying question.
Another
Sometimes I've know each of you have had buyers that actually change the whole trajectory from what they initially told you, and they're going a whole different way, right? And you still took them to the finish line in the middle of a search and just change direction.
Only one. There was only one. And again, these are real estate chronicles right here, right? There was only one set of buyers that I did not get to the closing table that I started working with. And that was because they weren't on the same page. All right. The husband wants one, the wife wants the other. And no lie, it got crazy because we saw properties. I've put in 3 offers for them. All of them were accepted and negotiated, and they were the ones to turn it down at the end.
Yeah.
And we did it 3 times. And then to top it off, they wanted to go look at another apartment that we had originally put an offer in for. I said, no. That was, and I said, and in all honesty, they knew, because literally I would have the conversation with one, and then the other one would say, no, but this, that, and the third. And then it's like, all right, but then, now this one meets what you're looking for. And then the spouse is like, no, this, that, and the third. And then finally, it gets crazy. You could find yourself wasting time. But again, it always comes back to that. You got to find the root. What's preventing you from getting to the table, right? That's why, like, whenever you ask all these questions, it's good that at the end of the day, when you're showing them these properties and they tell you, no, this isn't it, or I don't like it, you can always refer back to what they said, right? Like, oh, I don't like this place. Why don't you like it? Because it's on the first floor. But you told me you wanted an apartment in the first floor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I wish we had more interaction. And again, it's Good Friday, so people are getting ready for the long weekend.
It's okay. I mean, I think, it's all right.
Yeah.
They're more than welcome to put in comments when they see it on the Facebook Alliance page. But honestly, what I've actually found out, what I've actually changed on some of the times when I ask for feedback is it's more of a rating scale, right? Like, from a scale of 1 to 10, how did you feel about the home?
Right.
And if they tell me that there's a 7, then what does it need to be a 10? What does it need to have for it to be a 10?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. What are we looking for? And then
Right.
when it goes into that motion of bigger kitchen, so on and so forth, then I start working into either massaging the fact of let's either put an offer in, or to the sense of this is not going to really work for you. Because there's been times where I've actually got ratings of 5, and I'm like, that's going to be that's going to take a long time for me to get to a 10 on that one, right?
But then sometimes the ratings are so emotional that you can redirect them into thinking in a level-headed way and still make an offer on something where like sometimes people, again, because it's a purchase on somewhere where you're going to live at, and a lot of people don't see past certain little things. I see sometimes it's very difficult when you have buyers saying, I want this house completely renovated, which to me could be a problem. What if you don't like all the renovations that people have made? So it's sometimes good to have a blank canvas.
So when it comes to buying, I mean, honestly, buying is an emotional situation.
Yeah.
Right? And it starts off again with the conversation that you have. So as a buyer's agent, a couple of things to also keep in mind: not only their motivation, location, and why they're buying, but keep the the acronym of FORD. FORD. Just keep that acronym in mind, which is family, occupation, recreation, and dream. So if you actually keep those 4 letters in mind as you're asking the question, how big of a family do you have? Do you need, is it work that you're looking for? Do you need to be really close to work, an hour away, half hour away? What are we talking about? Are you needing a park near your home for your kids, for your dog, whatever, your cat, if you walk them, and what kind of dream home are you looking for? Is it a mansion or is it a home or is it a bungalow? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to diss bungalows, because bungalows are nice, but not just a little bit too small for
me.
So the point is that you create that sort of customized relationship for them to see, hey, listen, this girl is listening to me as to what kind of home I want. The only thing is that as a buyer's agent, another value you can put is listen to exactly what they want. Don't deliver what they don't need. So in other words, like if they're asking for a 1 bedroom, don't deliver a junior 4 all of a sudden or a studio because they can afford a studio. All of a sudden you thought that was the right thing to do, right? Or if it's a colonial house that they're looking for, don't deliver a bungalow because again, they're looking for a specific type of home. Right. You want to deliver exactly what they're looking for first. When it comes to readjusting, like it happened to me, where it's a 2-family, it came to a point that there was way too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
To determine exactly the 2-family.
Yeah.
So I actually started eliminating. Right, I found a way to sort of eliminate a little bit more of the kitchen cooks per se, and try to get them into a single family, and then try to get both of them into a single family near the closest area. So it's still in working process with one of them, but the other one I'm almost wrapping up. So
and I would add also, do not add any unsolicited advice. I've seen real estate agents showing properties, and they're like, "Oh, how are you? I would put a split unit. You know what? I have my contractor. He'll do that for $2,500."
Yes,
and I'm
of
like,
course.
Where we never even mentioned that. The buyer seemed okay with no split units and AC in the window. Where is this coming in? Or you know what? I have a degree in interior decorating. I can I'm like, don't deliver, like things that are not solicited for your own, basically to benefit your own business and own side business. I find that to be cheesy and really tasteless. Right?
Of course. 1,000%.
And borderline disrespectful to the buyer. Right.
1,000%. Absolutely.
Right. So I don't know how much longer we want to go on this.
I think we honestly.
So
I was
basically,
say we should have cut it like 10 minutes ago. No, I'm kidding.
No, because we could go on forever, but it's basically just be in tune with your consumer, your customer, your client. Just listen to people, and don't try to to tell them what you think is best for them,
Right.
and keep the communication open. And
Of
this is
course.
where a lot of buyers have problem with agents, the lack of communication.
Be
If
transparent
you're
as
not going
possible.
to be, if
Absolutely.
you're not going to be able, let's say for this weekend, I have told everybody I am on cooking duty this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I am off. You will not hear from me, and they're
Absolutely.
okay with that because it's a valid.
You're
it's a valid
still going to get people calling you anyways. But yes, I get what you're saying.
Sure. But my clients,
What time are you
no.
going to be busy so I can call you at that same exact time?
That's exactly,
I know. Yeah, good luck.
that's exactly what's going to happen.
I'll put it on do not disturb. It's okay. It's all right. So guys,
Gotta do.
you can always add up your comments into the Alliance Movement page,
Yes, absolutely.
in below the recording. This is gonna stay on forever. It's on YouTube. You can also find it on my page, and I guess Ed and Israel will take probably snippets and re-put
Of
them
course.
here and there. So enjoy your Easter weekend, guys.
Yes.
All right.
Enjoy Easter weekend, everyone.
Everybody,
Have a great
we
day.
appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Jimena.
you.
Appreciate you. Ooh, it's Friday.
Yeah.
What?
Bye, guys.
Have a good one.